What would you do if you could play with time like clay? Thank you to our $5 patrons, Strawbones, Over 4765, Midnight Gem Lord, Sean, and Artgoon. And a very big thank you to our $25 patron, Alex Ice Rose. Now, we're going to have this breakdown / discussion on why Kang the Conqueror is such an interesting concept. Please don't forget to leave your own thoughts on Kang the Conqueror in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. Use Rizzo as $1 thanks to videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? I love Pencil here, and yes, I did go and see Ant-Man Quantumania, and I will admit, I liked the movie. I did like the movie, especially considering when I was hearing about it. It was pretty darn good. I like the aesthetic of the movie. I like the characters of the movie, I like the writing of the movie, I like the acting in the movie, all that good stuff. At this point, Marvel has the formula down so well that I think it's nigh on legitimately impossible for them to make a bad movie. Like legitimately just straight up bad movie. I think everything just has to be good from this point on because they have the money for the best actors. They have money for the best writers. They have the best money for literally everything. So I don't think there will ever be a bad Marvel movie ever. I think they'll always be good. But I think the main thing that got me thinking, literally had a whole multi-hour conversation with my homie that I went and saw the movie with after the movie, was Kang the Conqueror. Now, notably, I'm not too familiar with Kang from the comics. I'm not too familiar with the comics in general. I know a whole ton of stuff because I sat down and binged a whole bunch of comic YouTube videos in the background when I draw stuff. But that's how I get most of my knowledge nowadays. I just sit back and listen on stuff. So my knowledge of Kang is very superficial, to the fact where I don't even think I've watched a video on him yet. I've seen clips of him from TV shows, animated TV shows, and I've seen comic panels of him, but the character never necessarily grabbed me in a way that Thanos did. And mainly because Thanos is much more important in the cultural zeitgeist, I say. Even before he obviously appeared and was the big main threat for the MCU, I think he was just more important than Kang in the grand scheme of things. That's why he's coming after Thanos. Thanos came first. And the thing is, Kang as a character was played very, 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 very well. Him in all spoilers, I suppose. Spoilers for Ant-Man and the Wasp. I won't spoil it. Let's just say Jonathan Majors did a very good job. He did a fantastic job playing Kang. And I really, really like that. But the thing is, Kang as a concept was very, very interesting because the movie never necessarily sat down and asked you the question. But the question that me and my friend immediately came up with afterwards is, if you were put in Kang's position, what would you do? And of course, Kang, his situation is so specific. He built the technology himself and created all that with whatever materials he did to become the person he was. Obviously, it would be very different for people like me and my friend, or any of us really, to suddenly be able to do all that. So who knows? Who knows how much time he put into that within his own universe before actually making himself Kang the Conqueror and going around doing what he did. But the idea of what one would do if they had full freedom and control and absolute separation from time and space is interesting. And we've seen multiple examples of it so far. With Loki, we saw the one who remains, the one at the very end, the one who was so afraid of what could happen that he ended up slaughtering the rest of himself and ended up writing the timeline, essentially. But we got another interesting variation of it in Ant-Man Quantumania, which is obviously the Kang, who was more so on the Conqueror route. You can definitely imply the one who remains was a Conqueror, but in terms of freedom and control, I'd say the one in Quantumania represents freedom more, while the one in Loki represents more control. And those are two major ideas that came to mind. If you had the ability to go through with technology powerful enough to essentially become something of a deity over time and space itself, what would you do? Especially if you knew that there were other variations of you doing the same thing. Notably, me personally, I do not like the idea of having a clone, ever. The only kind of clone I think I would ever be okay with is a shadow clone, because I can dispel them at any moment. They can never, unless I fall asleep around one, which I don't think I'd have any active while I'm sleeping, I can literally never get hurt by them because it's just a quick hand sign and away. But the thing is with the different Kangs is that they are all individuals. They are fully sentient, they are fully sapient, and they may or may not like me as an individual. So I can definitely understand why the Kang at the one, or I suppose the one who remains, was yeah, no, and proceed to rule over them all, and specifically govern the universe in such a way at the end of time that he would never have to worry about any other ones of himself showing up, and he got to control everything. Because, of course, one natural major response to humans gaining a sense of control, or the ability to control, is a natural affinity for control. You'll notice that humans, just in general, as a species, typically seem to not like things being beyond our comprehension. And that's in stuff with just our daily lives. Like, think on the grand scheme of what you yourself can control. Yeah, it's very limited. At most, I think the biggest thing you can have active control over is like a truck. Because I guess you can say you have control over your house, but you can't move it anywhere. I mean, when I'm talking about control, I mean the ability to manipulate something, absolutely. And even then, your car can just break beyond your knowledge and comprehension. But humans don't like uncertainty. We as a species just prefer patterns. We're literally wired to do so. So obviously, if you were to broaden your escape of control from not just your car, not just a bike you're riding, or even your own 2 feet and hands, but you were to broaden that control to a multiversal scale, I think a lot of humans would walk down that path. Personally, I would believe that I wouldn't, just because like I'd be too brain blasted. Like an overload of information, or the overload of information that would come with being Kang, being someone outside of the scope of time and space itself, would be such a drastic shift in my perspective that I think I'd probably just be in stasis for like the next 1,000 years trying to figure out, wait a second, what does this mean? Because you got to realize, Kang doesn't necessarily see time even in any sort of linear fashion. Time just is. Kind of like how space is. You know how you can look up at the stars and kind of just see, you can see like hundreds of different stars all at the same time. Yeah, level that up to infinity and then square that infinity. Like, I think it's literally like a Google, like infinite information is what you would be able to, not even be able to, because to be able to implies that you could not. You can choose to not look up at the night sky. Kang, if you were ever put in his position, would not be able to look away. Your eyes would constantly be locked on the eternity before you. All of creation itself would be born to you. And let's say it was just from the point from where you spawn onwards. Like, you can just look backwards throughout all of time. At least I believe, and I'm just going off the top of my head, I've not done research on universe or astrophysics in a while. It's been a long time. But I believe the universe is about like 11 billion years old. Can you even conceive 11 billion years? Like, think about it. Think of how many days that is. How many hours? How many minutes? How many seconds? 11 billion years is. Do you even know the number? Because I don't. Like, I wish I could pull out the number for you, but I'm not opening out the calculator right now, because I think that will literally break my calculator. But legitimately, imagine seeing all of that at once. And then realize the universe isn't forecasted to die for like a long time, like a really, really long time. Like, humans will most likely not be around by the time the universe just says, yeah, it's heat death time, baby, or it's a big crunch time, baby, or it's any of the universe ending scenarios that we've come up with, baby. Like, we won't be around to see it. I highly doubt it, unless humans evolve drastically. But to the point, if we evolve drastically, are we even still humans? But see, this is where me and my friend go into like complete different rabbit holes. That's how we lead to different conversations. But focusing on that idea, right? Let's say the brain immediately gets the ability to comprehend all of that information. You don't just go brain dead from an exhausting amount feels like an understatement. Like, it's not an exhausting amount of information. It's literally an inexhaustible amount of information, because it is everything. What would you do? What would you want to do? Would you want to do anything? Because presumably, if you can see all time at once, you see the end of it. You are simultaneously looking at the beginning of creation and the end of it, and everything in between. I feel like part of me, a deep-seated part of me would be like, well, this is all pointless. Because now that I know that the only place I can exist, which is presumably the universe, is going to end, even though I am now technically immortal, I'm going to have to keep running back in time. I'm going to have to always keep looping, because I don't want to know what happens afterwards. Because presumably, if we're going by the general definition of space-time, when space ceased to exist, when the universe ceased to exist, we cease to exist. Or no, time itself ceases to exist. Because you can't have space without time, you can't have time without space. Because without something passing within space, there is no time. But without anything existing at all, there is no space. which correlates to time. It's very, very weirdly. I love astrophysics. I love all the stuff like this. You rarely hear me talk about it because I mainly talk about like magical series or series that have non-conventional power systems. And thusly, you never hear me talk about astrophysics, but I love astrophysics. But the thing is, a lot of people would fall straight to futility because there is nothing that you could really do about it. Sure, you made the technology to transcend the universe itself, but what are you going to do when there is no universe left? That's the one thing I wonder about Kang, and this is why I do want to do a bit more research on him. I'm going to Google Kang character explain video right after this, because what does he do once the end hits? Does he just make another one? Does he discover the ability to create universes? Because if so, that's one thing. Maybe if you have the ability to create universes, then you never have to worry about it. Once you reach the end of one, just poop out another, and then wait the however many billion years it takes for life to develop again. Or just skip it. Because that's the thing. You can also just move anywhere in time as long as your technology still works. And unless you are in very specific situations, your technology always should work. So maybe you can just skip it. But even then, it's once again, yeah, you can do this. You can do that. But then you essentially lose all meaning of human connection. Like, you legitimately have no reason to ever connect with any living creature or even any biological creature. You have no reason to connect to your universe, because if we assume that you can exist outside of it, I believe Kang does. I believe Kang does not acquire a universe or a place to live. Yeah, you literally always know, since you see it all at once, that everything is going to end. There's no point in making friends. There's no point in the only thing you could hypothetically do, which would be dangerous because you would already. Yeah, that's the thing. I see where Kang goes, even though I don't like where Kang goes on a moral front. Yeah, you could hypothetically give more people this power. But if you gave multiple people the ability to control time or be completely above it, what would that do? Even if they ended up brain dead for 5 universe cycles, what happens when they wake up on the 6th? And then imagine you aren't just dealing with other people that you made essential deities, but on top of that, you're dealing with the other variations of yourselves who also became deities. It's a troubling thing, especially considering if we go with like deep, true, proper multiverse theory, every choice made creates another universe. And there are infinite amounts of choices, not just being made by like human beings, but like living creatures in general, even inanimate objects moving throughout the universe. Every single action that is taken within a finite system creates another finite system, which creates another finite system, which creates another finite system, meaning there's an infinite amount of finite systems if you believe they're finite. If you really want to get complicated and believe the universe is infinite, then you have infinite systems that are just endlessly and infinitely spawning. Wouldn't that break the brain? Like, legitimately, I am low-key impressed by Kang's evolutionary ability, I suppose. Like, the fact that he did this purely technologically, at least that's my understanding from the movie. Once again, I do not know Kang from the comics. If Kang from the comics is not a tech man, then Kang from the comics is not a tech man. But at least from my understanding of MCU Kang, he's a tech man. So the fact that he evolved wherever he came from, notably, I don't think the one we see in the movie is the quote-unquote original. And I'm not sure if we're ever going to meet the original. I'm not even sure if He Who Remains is the original. So, with that being the case, I'm really wondering, what was that process like? Like, simply going from what was presumably a regular man in infinite multiverse to viewing all of the infinite infinities all at the same time. I don't know. Seems pretty brain breaking. I think the main question of the video that I need to answer is what I would do, right? Give me full capability to understand what has just happened to me and free will to do whatever I wish to do in this scenario. I think my biggest thing, I want to become Kang the Conqueror. I would become Pencil the Observer. I kind of become the Watcher, essentially. Like, I would just learn and study and watch everything. Notably, if I do have limited human brain capacity, then I'm kind of stuck out of luck. I will never remember everything, which will kind of just keep me going for infinity. But I think Kang's brain is altered because he remembers everything that he does for the most part. So even with that limited storage, I think I would just be like a benevolent being for the most part. Like, notably, I think the reason I say for the most part is because I'd be benevolent, but I know that doesn't necessarily matter because my actions in one timeline just means that the original actions that were meant to happen in another timeline. So realistically, I'm saving one individual, but in reality, they were already saved. So that's the thing. I feel like there'd be a lot of existential dread, like even worse than what we occasionally have now. Like, I don't know if y'all ever just sit down and start thinking a little bit too hard, but like, your boy just does occasionally be sitting back, especially when like a video's exporting or I'm taking a break from a sketch or something like that. I'm like, I'm an insignificant speck in this infinite universe. I will exist for what would not even be considered a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction's fraction of this time or any time. And in the great infinity that does exist, I am truly nothing. Wow, that's sad. But I need to like go back to regular brain things and be like, yep, the video's done exporting. Let me go upload it. Like legitimately, I think that would just be that on a next level scale. I think, who knows? I'd probably turn into, you know what I'd turn into 100% from my Ben 10 fans out there. I would just be Professor Paradox. I would legitimately just be Professor Paradox. I would be going around helping out here and there and mainly just doing stuff to do it. Just seeing what happens. I don't think I would ever go on like the Kang route of I'm going to wipe out all other versions of me, or I'm going to wipe out the multiverse. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm worried because there's going to be a version of me that will do that. If we go with the multiple versions idea, like even though I transcend time, other me's will figure out how to transcend time. But if it's literally just me, I'm just Professor Paradox, just vibing, just living a good life. However, at the same time, if I am dealing with other memes, I may just have to be on the consistent run, which kind of sucks. That's the thing. There's no winning as Kang. You could technically be the one who remains, but even still, I don't think that would be fun either. I do not want to write the script of the multiverse, or I suppose singular universe in the one who remains case. That doesn't. I like free will. Ironically enough, shock horror. I like free will and others having free will. So I don't think I would ever become like I would be an overseer. I would literally just be a watcher, an occasional helper. I don't think I would ever be able to be a ruler, a controller, a conqueror. However, that's what I think. What do you guys think? What would you do if you were Kang the Conqueror? Please tell me in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure the little notifications will miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a page down below. You support yourself as $1 links to the videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dagger the Pencil, writing off.